This is an interesting article. Established creators and major publishers are changing Kickstarter. Now, the whole premise of this, there are people that are comic book professionals that have been in comics a long time, and comic book publishers that have been around, and they're major publishers. They're not just indie tiny publishers, and they're using Kickstarter to change comic books, and it's changing the Kickstarter platform because it's not just for indies anymore. It's so odd that they leave out Indiegogo because so many major creators and now a new major publisher, Dynamite, is using Indiegogo to produce its first original graphic novel just for crowdfunding. That's actually important. It's important for comic books. It's fascinating. This article comes from Bleeding Cool. Just before we get into the article, if you want to support me, go to collegeofthedead.com. You will get my book that was a huge success on Indiegogo. Full color, 48-page graphic novel about zombies attacking students on campus. What better place for a zombie apocalypse but on campus, right? Also, The Mermaids. This is my new 48-page book. It is coming out very soon. This is a sneak peek at the inside of it. Look at this artwork. The artwork is fantastic. The book is completely done. It's actually the biggest, potentially best written Comicsgate book that we've done yet. Why is it big? It's big in the number of characters that are involved. I spent a couple of years developing this. There are more than 30 characters. It's a self-contained fantasy world, and we need more writers in Comicsgate. This is a well-written book, and the writer is about to start on a sequel. This is the sign-up page for The Mermaids. So getting back to the article, how established creators and major publishers are changing Kickstarter. This is coming from Bleeding Cool. Kickstarter has been a haven for indie creators to bring their projects to life for years now. It's true. The popular crowdfunding platform has allowed comics creators to showcase their dream concepts to the public, letting the book sink or swim based on the reaction. That's true. A lot of them would just dump the project on Kickstarter, and Kickstarter is like a retail platform. There's a lot of people that do have some interest in comic books that go to Kickstarter, and people would just back them if they like them, but not a lot of advanced promotion. Writers and artists alike have looked to the platform to find success outside of the direct market, meaning the comic book store industry, foregoing traditional publishing in order to bring their project directly from the creator to the reader. Now, though, as the comics market undergoes a significant shift, big-name creators and even traditional publishers themselves are bringing their content to Kickstarter. What does this mean, though, for the indie creator? It just means a bigger marketplace. It means more customers and more people paying attention to Kickstarter, and especially Indiegogo. It's so laughable how they leave out Indiegogo. This is just a quick list. I'll have a link in the description from a great website called creatorgo.com/CG that lists top comic book projects. Of course, we have the one that we're really, really proud of in Comicsgate, Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog 2 Wreck Planet, but we're also really excited about Expendables, Blade Devil, Cyberfrog, all these titles, and even some of the smaller ones. It's exciting to see people succeed. It's great to see people succeed. I'm really happy to be on this list at number 22. With College of the Dead. So many very cool projects, new books, sequels, just incredible, successful audience. So what's going to happen to indie creators as a result? I mean, it only helps people. The article goes on. Major creators using Kickstarter to fund projects isn't new. Major creators using crowdfunding platforms aren't exactly new. Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner have a long history of using Kickstarter to fund their graphic novels under their Paper Films publishing company. However, they were once the exception to the rule at a time when the majority of, they still are an exception to the rule, at a time when the majority of creators on Kickstarter were not simultaneously working on mainstream comics for Marvel and DC. This has recently changed. The exception has become the norm of late. These guys are so non-specific with their language and their examples. With creators such as indie darling superhero mainstay Jeff Lemire, hasn't he had problems recently? Teaming with Mind MGMT powerhouse Matt Kindt to crowdfund Cosmic Detective on Kickstarter. Yeah, they did Cosmic Detective, and this was their great hope that they would show Comicsgate that they can sell lots of books and they can outdo Comicsgate, and it's not bad. It's not bad. But of course, we trounced them with FragaBoom's Black Flag. And if this book had done a little bit better, we would have just done more business on Black Flag. Because Comicsgate's competitive, we promote and we support Comicsgate people. Great to have Dan Fraga in Comicsgate. It's a miracle and it's fantastic. Ever since Dan Fraga joined Comicsgate, we had more great creators come on, like Shane Davis and Kenneth Rocafort, amazing talent, Graham Nolan, and more people I might be forgetting. Back to the article. These types of projects, spearheaded by mainstream creators, often succeed with numbers that put them among the highest ranked comics projects on Kickstarter. Kickstarter. They can't mention Indiegogo. Such a project is Metro by Cullen Bunn, writer of usually at least 6 titles per publisher. Wow, per publisher per month. I didn't know that. Which had a goal of 30,000 and brought in 128,000. All right, good for you, Cullen. In addition to mainstream creators taking to Kickstarter, well-known publishers have begun doing the same. Now, this doesn't make their point. This was an interesting project from Zenescope Entertainment. The project they're talking about is Grim Fairy Tales, the animated series. I remember seeing this come out a couple of years ago. That was interesting. That was like a long time ago. Here's that one. This was Grim Fairy Tales from Zenescope. And what were they doing? They were making an animated version of their comic. I didn't back it. I assume it came out. They have download links from 2015. And I'm sure Zenescope has done other campaigns since. I would be shocked if they didn't, but this was a big campaign at the time. It's still a sizable campaign. They did $188,000. They did have to ship to 1,074 backers. So, they must have had some money left over for the animation after shipping all the rewards, and all the pledged items. But I don't know. I just haven't heard that much about the project. But that was an interesting project. And Avatar Press has also had success on Kickstarter. That's true. I've seen their projects. Launching huge campaigns to fund the production of graphic novels such as Alan Moore's Cinema Purgatorio and Kieran Gillen's Uber. Josh Blaylock, who runs Devil's Due Comics, has also used the platform to fund the publisher's catalog for a long time. Well, then how is any of this new? This doesn't serve the argument that they're changing the platform right now. Anyways, all of these projects were embraced by the Kickstarter community because the publishers kept them creator focused. That's a weird thing to say. You don't know that. Grim Fairy Tales is owned by Zenescope, a family-run business. Avatar's offerings have largely been creator-owned, as have Devil's Due Slate. We are beginning to see publishers step outside of those parameters, though, which was initially a point of contention. Archie Comics, this is true, this was kind of drama back in the day. Archie Comics garnered controversy when they planned to use Kickstarter to launch major new titles that were company-owned. Bleeding Cool previously reported Archie's, because at the time the view was, Kickstarter is just for people who can't publish their book any other way, and they are creators with no resources. So people like Bleeding Cool and other comics media helped, I'm sure, as you can see they do now, stoke bizarre, whisper campaign attacks. So Archie's cancellation of its campaign, which had a huge goal, it did have a ridiculously high goal of $350,000. Okay, would this kind of campaign still be met with controversy in 2020, though? Well, it would be if it was on Kickstarter and the comics media decided they wanted to attack it, and if the money was going to people that weren't in control of the Whisper Network. However, if it was Comicsgate somehow, then we would probably say don't do a $350,000 goal. But yeah, I think they could have success now. Not only publishers like Scout Comics, IDW Publishing, and SourcePoint Press published some comics funded by creators on Kickstarter, but the platform is now used by companies such as Dynamite, Space Goat, and Dark Horse Comics to crowdfund merch, statues, and board games based on their most popular intellectual property. But that's been really for years now. This is not a new development. What does this mean for unknown indie creators? Well, I mean, obviously what it means is if there are more people on the Kickstarter platform or the Indiegogo platform and they're buying comics and they're receiving what they're buying and it's unique stuff, it makes it a more viable marketplace. It makes it a more interesting marketplace. But ultimately what so many people forget is you have to promote what you're doing. You have to let people know it exists, and you have to build a reputation on your own for delivering your stuff. You know, the reason why people back Comicsgate projects, for example, is they're looking forward to a really cool, independent, passionately created project. However, it's also leveraged on the success promotionally of other people that have succeeded in the past, but it's mostly leveraged on people who've delivered. You know, if you've shipped your book, if you've delivered your book on time, especially, when people buy new projects, they assume because they've gotten stuff in the past, or they hear that they've gotten stuff in the past, that it's going to come out, whatever it is that you're offering. So it always helps to ship stuff on time, and it helps to keep stuff high quality. Okay, so what does this mean for the indie creator who still uses Kickstarter to fund that otherwise wouldn't be made? It's hard to say at the moment. Creators and indie publishers that have used the platform to build their businesses from the ground up, such as Iron Circus Comics and Margins Publishing. That's my kind of guy. I got to check those guys out. Create campaigns that compete and often exceed the publishers that have until recently operated only in the direct market. Kickstarter, which, you know, this is a ridiculous comparison of numbers. For example, so College of the Dead did like 31,000 so far on its second campaign, College of the Dead Graduation Day. Yes, if that was offered in the direct market, it would probably do $1,000 or $3,000, some very nominal number, and it would be a much higher number. But because of the price point in independent publishing and the fact that you're not selling it at a discount, when you're selling it through crowdfunding, direct to consumer, the numbers are night and day anyway. It's not just 10 times more than you would get from the direct market, for example. It's like 50 times more because of discounts, because of costs of production. In any case, Kickstarter, like the traditional industry, has stars such as Brian Pulido, yes, who publishes Lady Death, creator who revitalized his brand and brought millions of dollars on ideas. Brought in millions of dollars on ideas he owns. Brian's very successful on Kickstarter, and that's his primary platform. He also has a website. He's very good at promoting, and he does some unique things that we could probably learn a few lessons from in Comicsgate. He's very creative with his marketing. And Charlie Stickney, who rose to crowdfunding prominence with his White Ash series. I don't think I've heard of that, but I don't pay much attention to them. Personally, this gentleman believes that the more creators and publishers that use the platform, the more consumers will see it as legitimate. Yeah, especially if we ship our books, right? One unfortunate stigma I've seen with Kickstarters is that often if a backer has a lousy experience with multiple campaigns, they will see this as an indication that the platform itself is not worth supporting. Look, it's all got a label on it. So if the label says Indiegogo, if the label says Kickstarter, if the label says Comicsgate, yes, the experiences that the consumer has is very important. Like anything else, if you go to Walmart and everything you bought wasn't what you thought it would be, or the box was empty or something like that, or the product was defective, whatever is going on, you know, if you go to the restaurant and you don't like the food, you're not going to assume that it's the meal that's the problem. You're going to assume that it's the restaurant that's the problem. Meanwhile, when publishers publish books, this is what I was, wow, this guy read my mind. Meanwhile, when publishers publish books late, the consumer knows to fault the publisher itself rather than the broader market. The more diversity in brands we see on Kickstarter, from webcomic artists to first-time creators to huge publishers, the more people will understand that Kickstarter itself is not a genre of comics. It is just like traditional publishing, a bridge from the creator to consumer. Well, with traditional publishing, though, the consumer isn't paying for the item until they receive it. In crowdfunding, the consumer pays up front, sometimes years up front, waiting for a project to come out. How far off are we from Marvel and DC using Kickstarter to fund titles owned by Disney and Warner Brothers? I don't know. Only time will tell. Even in that eventuality, indie creators will continue to thrive on the platform because while publishers can only pay for a well-produced campaign, Kickstarter campaigns are unlike solicitations we see from traditional publishers. Instead of a small block of text, these campaigns are essentially a letter to the potential backer, using images, words, and videos to show these would-be customers how passionate the creators are about their titles. It is that passion that will enable indie creators and publishers, however small, to thrive on Kickstarter. All right, that's true, but not so super relevant. So what he's saying is the fact that, yes, we can show as much advanced artwork as we want. We can show a fantastic video trailer if we want to. We can build our own identities on crowdfunding platforms, as we have with Comicsgate and on Indiegogo. But yeah, it's pretty great that you can show as much work as you want to when you're offering a campaign. I mean, on College of the Dead, I had a great trailer by Ted Zagaro. Thank you, Ted, again. We had a lot of advanced artwork. People got to see what the covers were going to be. People got to see the specialty books. People got to see interior pages. So it's kind of like not a question as to, hey, is this book going to be a good book or a bad book? It's like you kind of know what the book is going to be. In normal publishing, in sales through the comic book store industry, as I like to call it, all you get to see if you're buying in advance is usually just like the artwork of the cover in previews. And sometimes there can be a link that you can find online to a video of some sort, but it's not really how projects are normally presented. It's fantastic that we as publishers and creators get to showcase our work and show it in advance to people as much as we get to do, because this is something that we really ought not to take for granted. It's a good point that you can show people, look, I mean, I have 3 pages so far up for the mermaids, or is it 4? I left 3 or 4. But people know exactly what they're going to be getting when it's offered. It's fantastic that we have that opportunity. That's about technology and the crowdfunding platform. I think that major publishers are going to be a huge boon to Kickstarter and to Indiegogo and independent creators. They're not going to crowd out product because you can really develop your own following. I have people who've signed up for my email list for College of the Dead. They signed up for the email list for the Mermaids Project. I know these are people that are interested in what I'm doing. They are not going to be distracted by some other campaign that isn't what I'm offering. They want to see what I'm going to do. And that's the advantage of working with these platforms, of also promoting your own work, collaborating with other creators, and seeing if they want to help you cooperate in promoting your own work. There's nothing like Comicsgate. Definitely check out my Secrets of the Comicsgate Network video series. There's 40 plus videos on there. It talks about how we kind of promote. If you're thinking about getting into publishing, definitely check it out. It's something that you may want to do, and you could become kind of educated on and kind of just see how we work. And there's a lot of information, so you can kind of learn to start publishing your own stuff. Again, if you want to check me out, collegeofthedead.com, epicmermaids.com to sign up for the list. And collegeofthedead.com is shipping right now, the book delivered. And you can go ahead and check out the Mermaids to just sign up for the email list for when it's released, so you can know and you can support my project. I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.